everyone. Great to see you all.
Good to see you too, Jack.
We're back at our favourite outdoor office at Ripponlea Estate. The sun is out, the birds are chirping, the breeze is rustling through the trees. What a beautiful start to the day.
Absolutely, and it's not just that it's visually stunning, Jack. As you say, it's quiet and you can hear the sounds of nature. Isn't it gorgeous?
But sound is something you can easily take for granted. But there's a heap of growing research to show how both noise and shh, the sweet sound of silence, affect the brain.
Well, Nick, today we share a global initiative that's cataloguing the world's most silent places. A list, as you can imagine, that's ever shrinking, unfortunately. But the good news in Australia, quite a few spots have made that list.
And in the quest for calm, Luke Hines is off to a luxe wellness retreat. Lucky him.
And on the other end of the sound scale, we discover a condition that makes people need to physically flee horrible noises. So noises like nails down the blackboard, or for me, the sound of my husband chewing.
Plus, we look at how music, from Pink Floyd to Mozart, is being used to reduce pain and map the human mind.
Joe, I couldn't agree with you more about the sound of your husband chewing. Drives me insane.
My husband or yours?
Both of our husbands.
It's a bit awkward all of a sudden, Jack.
Well, another sound that I really do hate also is that Baby Shark song, those real earworms that your kids love.
Well, you love this one, Jack. Scientists in New Zealand have teamed up with a local musician to tag what has been described as the world's most relaxing song, and I've got it for you now. Have a listen to this.
Now, the song is called Bagels, and it's New Zealand composer Bene's favourite food. She says it was inspired by her comfort food, bagels, and the sounds of relaxing music.
I like it, Jack. It's got a bit of Enya about it to me, I think, a little bit. I think I'd like to have it as my morning wake-up alarm. It would go well. So how was it voted the world's most relaxing song? Well, scientists at Auckland's University of Technology played it to a number of young people hooked up to a brain electronic test, and they all reported a decrease in short-term anxiety, which is a good thing.
They also played an Ed Sheeran song and a couple of metal tracks in the study. And what a surprise, the heavy metal songs did create a much higher anxiety score. I'm not surprised by that at all.
And Joe, in the US, they played Mozart to babies during the standard heel prick test. And what they showed was that the babies who had the jab in silence cried for much longer and had higher pain indicators than the babies that listened to the classical music.
Science is increasingly looking at the link between music and the mind, including at the University of Melbourne, where one pioneering professor is tuning in to the benefits of sound.
When we're listening to music, we've got all sorts of networks of our brain activated. So when we put someone in the scanner and we look at their brain listening to music, multiple networks light up. But if you think about, music and its most powerful role, we describe music as the language of emotions, don't we? And we know now from many neuroscience studies that music has a particularly powerful effect on the emotional networks of the brain, in particular our reward or dopamine network, and it really can directly produce a dopamine hit for us when we engage in it. This is a really important issue to understand, that the benefits for our health when we engage with music kind of sit on a dimension. If we've just got it on in the background, it's really probably not going to be doing us much good because we're not attending to it and we're not really processing it at a huge or deep level. However, if we're actively listening to it, that's when we start to see the benefits emerging for our health, and even more so if we're engaging in the music making. So we're now moving in time to the music, we're singing along to the music, or if we're training as a musician, we're playing an instrument and making the music. There's benefits along that spectrum, but the literature shows they're most pronounced when we're doing music making. We can see that there are particular sensitive periods where music is most likely to change the brain. It changes often how many neurons or cells will be devoted to the task. So if I spend a lot of time practicing the violin, I'll see an increase in my motor maps for representation of the fingers. But we'll also see increasing connectivity between regions. So what that produces is these, what we call near transfer benefits. So these networks aren't just for music, right? They do other things as well. They're for our memory, they're for our creativity, planning. And so what we find is that when we're using music and we're using those networks, that it's having these benefits for those other cognitive abilities as well. Now, when we look at these sensitive periods when we're most likely to get these benefits, the earlier we start, the better. It appears that there are sensitive periods for young children, often before the age of 7, where they get the most benefit and changes to these networks of their brain. But that's not to say it's too late to start later in life, because we also see that people later in life get benefits and that engaging in music is neuroprotective, and it can help us recover from injury to the brain, and it can be neuroprotective in conditions like Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's disease. People can engage with music in many different ways. There's no right way. You don't have to be a virtuoso. It's the act of doing it that gives you the benefit, not how good you are, that matters.
The work that's being done in this area is amazing. Scientists have just recorded an entire Pink Floyd song, not my choice, but good on them, using the brainwaves of patients undergoing brain surgery.
Yeah, it's absolutely extraordinary, Joe, because in New York, 29 patients had electrodes put on their brains for the surgery, which in itself is pretty weird. Then they were played that Pink Floyd song, Another Brick in the Wall, and then they used AI afterwards to reconstruct the song using the brainwaves from each individual patient. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
It does make you wonder if one day we'll be able to communicate entirely through thought alone, which is scary.
An incredible thought in itself, Jack, when you think about it. From creating music using the mind only to seeking out silence, why quiet is becoming the sweetest sound of all. That's next on the House of Wellness.
Well, Dr Nick, there's no doubt the world is getting louder. You've got traffic, constructions, sirens, drones, the good old leaf blower.
Yeah, well, noise pollution is a major issue, Joe, and it contributes to anything from anxiety, sleep disorders, chronic health problems, because really loud noises trigger our stress response, and our brains have evolved to consider sound important, so it's really hard to ignore it.
So quiet time is a proven stress buster, not just for us, but for wildlife survival as well, which is why a global initiative called Quiet Parks International is on a quest to identify and save the planet's last silent spaces.
Yeah, they're documenting the quiet places all around the world, and I'm glad to say Australia has come up with 2 on the list. So WA's Shark Bay and also the beautiful Tasmanian wilderness.
Oh, such beautiful places in Australia. And you know what, during the pandemic, noises and the sound created by humans dropped by 50%. That's what happens when there's no traffic or aircraft, and a lot of people really did enjoy that.
But loud, annoying noises can certainly have a negative impact. I mean, yours, Joe, if I remember correctly, was your husband's chewing.
Oh, my God. It drives me crazy, as much as I love him.
Well, for mine, it's the old-fashioned, the fingernails on the blackboard thing. Oh, I just can't stand that. But there are some unfortunate people with a condition called misophonia, and for them, particular noises can create a very strong response, leading to panic or even rage.
If you've ever shuddered at someone slurping on a bowl of soup or cringed at the creak of a door, you know just how irritating a harmless sound can be. But for Melbourne's Suey McGrath, there's one noise that isn't just annoying, it has the potential to ruin her entire day.
The sounds that trigger me are particularly plastic bags, so like a typical chip bag. That crushing, loud crushing sound, and someone putting their hand in, that just sounds so harsh on my ears and so irritating. If I'm ever in the movies and someone's rattling a plastic bag behind me, I turn and glare at them because I just can't stand it. Also on the train, if someone's rattling a bag, I just have to get up and move because I really can't handle it. There's some things I can just feel a bit frustrated about. But when I hear these sounds, I really just want to scream. I feel like I've just got to get away, and if the person doesn't stop it, I'm going to have to put my hands around their neck and squeeze.
Suey's aversion to the crinkle of plastic might sound dramatic, but it's actually the result of a little-known disorder called misophonia.
So misophonia is an aversive reaction to a range of sounds, typically trigger sounds made by other people, and most commonly eating, breathing, sniffing sounds. It can also be repetitive sounds, so pens tapping, keyboard, tapping, that sort of sound. And it's characterised by a disproportionate, and I say that without judgment, a disproportionate reaction of anger or even rage. The sound goes into the ear and then heads up to the brain.
Audiologist Miriam Westcott frequently sees patients who are suffering from misophonia, and she believes it's far more common than we realise.
Sound intolerance disorders, we're still in our infancy, really, in understanding them fully. It's only just last year that a group of people that have researched misophonia got together to try and come up with an agreed-on definition, and they agreed that it should be called a disorder. So while there's a fair bit of consensus and there's research going on, we're still feeling our way.
It's really hard because I eat by myself.
In my experience, it's most commonly triggered by a sound made by a family member at a time of childhood vulnerability. So that might be a family member, let's say a parent or a sibling who's eating noisily, and that might be when the child is feeling particularly stressed or vulnerable. That reaction of irritation and or disgust lodges in the primitive part of the brain. So the next time you're in that situation, the brain remembers that and anticipates that sort of emotional response, and it builds up.
When I think back, I remember being in the car when I was a child, rattling a plastic bag, eating chips out of a plastic bag, and my dad getting cross at me and saying, "Stop rattling that plastic bag." And he didn't really get cross at us very often, And then every time I went to use a plastic bag, I'd think about it, what an awful noise it is. And I think that might have contributed to it.
Sometimes you feel you're walking backwards through life.
Brisbane musician Milena Safali can't pinpoint the cause of her misophonia, but she says in recent years her symptoms have only gotten worse.
For the last couple of years, I've had a few things that you'd probably describe as traumatic. One was our home burning down in the Black Summer bushfires in Mallacoota on New Year's Eve 2019. And then I was in a terrible car accident when I went back to Mallacoota for closure and ended up in hospital for 3 weeks and had my mobility challenged. So the misophonia has always been there since I can probably remember being about 14 and being triggered by clicking heels, high heels. I don't recall being triggered by any other sounds, but as I've gotten older and as these traumas in my life have occurred, the list of trigger sounds has absolutely blown right out. I've got, probably 20 triggers, dripping taps, motors that are running incessantly outside, scuffling thongs, baby lorikeets doing a certain chirpy sound, whereas I have 8 lorikeets and they don't affect me whatsoever. It's specifically that sound of a baby lorikeet.
Come on, you gonna get the tea? Want tea?
When I have a triggering sound that disturbs me, it's like the sounds are attacking my brain, attacking me. I've got they're rushing at me, they're really, really loud.
Is Daddy?
I've explained it to my partner. I don't know how much he understands. When he sits and taps his foot, I go mad. I want to leave the room. I've got to go and get earplugs. But for me to say to my partner, "Can you please stop tapping your foot? It's disturbing me," is a really hard thing to say because it's like a personal attack on him when he's actually not doing anything wrong.
So how can the loved ones, the significant others, the family members provide support to somebody with misophonia? To take it seriously, to not bend over backwards to avoid triggering, but to acknowledge that triggering occurs. I take it very seriously. It's very easy to trivialise this reaction or to sort of suggests that people have got some control over this reaction, and they don't.
People need to be aware that some people are just particularly sensitive and do struggle with this. So if we can get the word out there that misophonia is a real thing, that would be really helpful.
Das, one of the noises I, along with Joe Stanley, cannot stand, people chewing. No.
I'm with you on that, Jack, 100%. So are a lot of Aussie office workers, people chewing loudly, unpleasant smelling food, someone loud on their phone talking are some of the irritations that annoy people in an office situation.
They also include open plan workplaces and sitting around in your sweaty gym gear all day. Who does that? Now, it's all part of this study into working in an office as opposed to working from home. Interruptions, another key takeout, and, of course, just general noise.
It's a big thing, isn't it, the benefits now between working from home versus working in an office. And I think one of the obvious things, if you're able to work at home, you don't have to deal with the troubling commute and the traffic day to day. That's a big plus. But I think a lot of people working from home are acknowledging they're missing out on that social connection that going into work gives you.
They're also missing out on that lingering lunch smell. No thanks.
Yeah. Jack, one of the legendary stories from an office I worked in on radio was that someone in the morning came and put their hot dog frankfurts in the urn that people were making their cup of tea from and were surprised that people are upset by it.
I've got one. Someone once cooked a piece of fish in a sandwich press and, like, stuck out the hole.
Get me working from home if that continues. Up next, incredible project that's uniting people in the fight against suicide, one tattoo at a time.
And Luke Hines heads to the Billabong Retreat to check out all of their fabulous food.
Well, November to me means Movember, where men are encouraged to grow a moustache, Nick, to get behind a great cause for the month of November.
And what about you, Das? Have you ever grown the mo? I think you would rock a tash.
I have grown the mo, Joe. It's not a great look, but that's the whole point. And I'd be up for doing it again because it's such a great cause.
Yeah.
It's a great cause, and Movember's slogan is changing the face of men's health.
Yeah, and this year we're focusing on the key areas of prostate cancer, testicular cancer and suicide prevention, areas where we lose far too many men every year.
Really upsetting, Nick, to think that the #1 killer for Australians 18 to 44 is still suicide. There's a lot of great work being done at the grassroots level to try and improve that horrific stat, Joe, including in an area that's a great passion of yours.
Yes, the project is called In Pieces, and it's the brainchild of one of Sydney's top tattoo artist, Gummy Johnston, is looking to solve the puzzle of suicide by using the whole of the community as his canvas.
I keep my hopes up. It's been a really cool project. I've sat down with 242 different personalities, different stories. The beauty of that too is that we get to sit and talk and have a really good moment, share an experience that is very unique and something that I feel really helps heal as well. The first experience I had with suicide, I was 11 years old when my father attempted to take his life. That was his third attempt at the time, and even in myself as a young man, there was moments where, there was one particular time where it was something that I thought was an option as well, and I hadn't grieved or processed my father's actions, and also led me to sort of go down a path that was quite dark.
It's one of those things where you just hear about it in high school, and then this kid from this school, or, you know, a friend of a friend, and it just keeps kind of resurfacing and resurfacing and getting closer and closer and closer, you know, as you grow up. So it's just a really massive topic that needs to be addressed.
Basically, what we're trying to do is destigmatise suicide, the speech around suicide, free up some space in the community just to be able to express and talk a bit more freely, try and lose the taboo of the subject. We've taken a design of the tattoo, it's a back piece. The tattoo is the Battle Royale. We've taken that and we've segmented it into 252 puzzle pieces. We're going to tattoo them individually on each person, photograph it, cut it up and edit it back into the puzzle so that each tattoo will represent the overall picture, represent on each person's skin, so different skin tones, different sort of areas of the body and everything all coming together into one big design. First up, we had a great designer make the puzzle piece into the website. Then you were able to log onto the website and select the tile that you would like to get. But a lot of people didn't really even care too much to choose their own tattoo. Most people just really wanted to come together. They didn't care what they got. I'd try to explain them my method of tattooing it and why I wanted to tattoo it in this certain way to get a certain result. And most people were like, mate, I don't even care, just do it.
Yeah, I got to choose a short list of pieces that I could potentially want, and obviously, you know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's one of those things where just being involved is awesome.
And luckily, the design even itself, it just worked. We didn't have to change the design to work with the puzzle. The puzzle worked with the design. Overall, first goal is to maybe achieve 3,000 puzzle pieces, this being 252, the first stage of the project. We've got a long road ahead of us, but we're going to try and enlist some other tattooists to be involved, to design the next piece of the puzzle. And we hope that we can just, aside from the money that we raise, we just really hope that we can do some good in the community to help. So many incredible people that I've been able to meet, and there's still... So people have had some really sad, tragic things happen in their lives, and they still want to keep giving, and they want to keep seeing the good, and they just want to keep going forward. It's pretty special in that way.
What an incredible project that one is. Never thought of getting a tattoo myself, Joe, but all 250 pieces are gone. But I understand your man Gummy's going to release some more in the future.
Well, the aim is to raise $500,000, and you can get behind it at inpiecestogether.com. I would get a tattoo for charity. Easily. Let's do it now.
I'm sure you would. Yeah. Well, from decorating our skin to our pet skin, as we head into the warmer months and summer's coming around, Nick, the question is, do our dogs actually need sunscreen?
It's a great question. I'm not actually a vet, Das, but the short answer is yes, because like us humans, dogs can get sunburnt, particularly if they've got that sort of short hair or pink skin. And just like us, sunburn can be not just painful for dogs, but increases the risk of skin cancer. So yes, protect them.
One thing I can't stand is people who run with their dogs in the middle of a hot day, their skin, their nose. It just seems like a totally silly thing to do, doesn't it? As well as their little paws on the hot.
You try telling my dogs not to run.
Well, Dennis is a short-haired staffy, my little dog, but I can't imagine putting sunscreen on him anytime soon. He gets under the shade, they get out of the sun. They're pretty smart dogs, aren't they?
No, but you got to be careful as an owner. Like, I always look at our Daisy Labrador, I'm like, it's like going out in 35 degrees in a fur coat. You wouldn't do that, would you?
No, I would not.
No, you would not. Up next, Luke Hines meets the chef who's turning vegetables into a 5-star wellness experience after this.
If you turn on the TV, it seems like everyone has beautiful, thick hair. And while there is a small, and I mean very small group, who are blessed with this naturally, most of us know that it comes down to picking the right hair care. The John Frieda Pro Filler Plus collection delivers a thickness boost to fine, thin hair. The shampoo, conditioner and heat protecting spray all create fullness on their own. But the power is when they're used together as a system, instantly plumping and creating the look and feel of more hair. In fact, when used instead of basic hair care, the range thickens hair overall by 200%. Infused with biotin for hair strength and hyaluronic acid for hair hydration, this vegan-friendly formula works from the inside out, creating stronger hair in just one use. It's silicone-free and safe for colour-treated hair. We all know the impact of a good hair day, and luscious locks shouldn't be exclusive to those in hair care ads.
The idea of floating and being cut off from all outside stimulation, including sight, sound and gravity, is at the core of float therapy. Floating weightless in the darkness is supposed to help our brain enter a deeply relaxed state. This form of relaxation is often referred to as restricted environmental stimulation therapy, or REST. And for anyone with a busy schedule, a little rest goes a long way. Norella, how best would you sum up float therapy?
If I was to list the benefits, I'd be here all day, but the main ones I would say is reduces stress and anxiety, it helps with pain relief, it improves your sleep quality, and it also has amazing skin benefits.
So the pool is full of salt?
It is.
Meaning that we feel weightless?
It definitely feels like a zero gravity experience. The buoyancy of the water pushes you up, so it's effortless floating. The water is set to 34.5 degrees Celsius, and that's the average human skin's temperature. And that uses a technique that you aim to achieve sensory receptor neutral, which means that you don't feel the air or the water, you just become one with it.
Am I likely to fall asleep?
There is a good chance you might if you really let yourself switch off and immerse the whole experience. I fell asleep on my first time and it was amazing.
Should I have any particular thoughts in my head? Should I try to meditate? Do I listen to music?
It's different for everyone. We can play some music for you, just some relaxing sounds, but I think some breathing techniques might be really good just to help really calm you down and help you switch off and get into that deep state of relaxation.
Do you turn the light out or do I?
When I put you into your room, the light will be on, just a really soft light. And then once you've had your shower, you're in the pool and you're in that comfy position, you can switch off the light and then you can switch it back on whenever you feel like.
If someone's nervous about swimming or they can't swim, is float therapy safe for them?
It's honestly safe for everyone. The buoyancy of the water pushes you up, making it practically impossible to drown or go under the water. And the water is super shallow, it's just under your knee.
How often would someone benefit from coming? Is it something that I do weekly, monthly?
When you first start floating, it is recommended that you do it around 3 times within the first 4 to 6 weeks, just to really get your body into it. And then after that, once every month or every 3 weeks, or as many times as you want if you really love it.
If you're someone who really struggles to relax, I mean completely switch off, float therapy is for you. The minute you get into the water, the combination of the salt making you feel weightless, the silence, the earplugs, and when it's completely dark, you have no other option but for your entire mind and body to simply let go. I didn't quite fall asleep, but I reckon with a few more sessions I definitely would. And at first it does take a little bit of getting used to because you kind of float around and you tap into the edges. But like anything in life, when you let go and you surrender, you can truly experience the benefits. And yeah, I'm gonna come back and float again, that's for sure.
Joe, the World Spa Awards were recently announced that I've now added another 20 health retreats to my bucket list.
Oh, you can never have too much spa
That's
action,
true.
Jack, let's face it. But the industry gives out hundreds of awards every year, and this year the world's best hotel spa was awarded to this alpine beauty overlooking Lake Lucerne in Switzerland. Just have a look at those vistas, my goodness.
Well, I'm going to be heading to Rome and Palazzo Fuji with the beautiful mineral waters and the views, named the world's #1 health retreat.
And if you like to go green while you pamper, and who doesn't, Jack,
Indeed.
check out this Kenyan wilderness lodge that took out the world's best eco spa. Absolutely stunning.
A little closer to home, you don't need a passport for this one, is the Billabong Health Retreat in New South Wales to nourish mind and body, as Luke Hines discovered.
Billabong Retreat lives up to its name. It's by a body of water and it's peaceful. So at a place like this, you expect the food to match the idyllic location, which is where Chef Adam Lord comes in.
I've always had a real passion for vegetables. Grew up on an island that was well known for potatoes, and when there's always pressure, it doesn't matter if you're in a massive commercial kitchen with 10 chefs and 300 customers, or cooking for 30 people who've been doing yoga and meditation all day, there's still pressure. We want them to walk away thinking about the food, thinking about what they've eaten. Things like banana blossom and jackfruit, which are now becoming increasingly more popular. I think it's important to show them what can be achieved.
Adam's worked in some of Sydney's finest restaurants, but it's his love of nature, fresh organic produce, and making food from the heart that makes Billabong Retreat so special.
Just hearing you talk, it reminds me of the importance of not only the type of recipe we cook, but the connection to our ingredients. Why do you think it's so important? And do you think that you feel that when the food hits the table?
Everyone likes a story, and I think it's important that we kind of know a bit more about what we're eating and why we're eating it. I mean, I like to try and think of old school dishes and how I can kind of make them vegan or vegetarian, but kind of still keep the essence of that dish. I think that's what's interesting about cooking plant-based and vegetarian food.
I love that everything, the honey, the fruit and veggies, even the coffee, is sourced locally. It's my kind of sustenance.
Working especially with Warra Farm in Dural, they're amazing. It's biodynamic and organic. It's also a non-for-profit social enterprise helping people with disabilities. So working with them and seeing what they can produce, it kind of makes my job a lot easier.
Not only does Warra Farm supply bio-organic produce all year round, it provides young adults with intellectual disabilities the opportunity to learn new skills and experience the therapeutic benefits of gardening. It's farm-fresh food grown with love and care, and then, in Adam's words, prepared from the heart.
I've tasted your food a number of times now in my short visit, and I got to say, it really is, hand on heart, spectacular. But the first thing I noticed was the abundance of different colours. Why do you think that's important?
First of all, you eat with your eyes first, I guess. If it looks appetising, generally will be. I think it's important to show variety as well. Obviously, from a nutritional point of view, you want to make sure that all the bases are covered. There's enough protein for people, there's enough greens, and it's important to make sure that there's a real punch of flavour in the food, because vegetables get such a bad rap. You know, like growing up, everyone's like, oh, Brussels sprouts are terrible. But that's because we used to boil them until there was nothing left. And, you know, it's one of the best vegetables around. The pickle today, beetroot, orange and caraway, fresh pickle.
OK, so he can turn veggies into a mouth-watering taste sensation. But what about dessert, when it's gluten and dairy-free?
We've had some beautiful organic apples recently and just baking those with a cashew cream. So we kind of keep it reasonably simple. It's something nice to finish on. We don't use any refined sugars, so all our sweeteners do come from things like agave and maple syrup. But for me, the important part is the buffet, where people kind of, you know, get to see what we can do.
You've got a bowl of mandatory sprouts on the table that we all have to have. If we don't eat our sprouts, do we still get dessert?
Oh, you still get dessert, as long as it goes on your plate and I don't see you scraping them off in the bin. It's all good.
If I say to you the word achoo, you'll probably know I'm talking about a sneeze. Achoo is a lovely word, and it's a great example of what we call onomatopoeia, a word that sounds like what it represents. The is the short intake of breath, before the chew, the explosion of air through the nose and mouth that's the sneeze itself. We sneeze because something irritates the delicate lining of our nose, anything from dust to infection, allergies, and even bright light. We'll come back to that. And it really works. A good sneeze can expel droplets up to 2 meters or even more, which is why it's so important to cover your nose and mouth when you sneeze. A sneeze is so forceful because there are a lot of muscles involved: the abdominals, diaphragm, chest, and throat. This is why it's better not to try and hold a sneeze in, because although it's very rare, if you do go, the high pressure risks damaging the eardrums or even the delicate blood vessels in the eyes. not good. No, much better just to let that sneeze out. Oh, when you do, doesn't it feel great? That's because a proper, wholehearted sneeze releases some of those feel-good chemicals called endorphins. So go ahead, sneeze away. Make the most of it. As part of the sneeze reflex, we close our eyes. Scientists don't really know why, but it may be to stop some of that gunk that we expel from our noses getting into our eyes. And contrary to myth, it is possible for some people to keep their eyes open when they sneeze. And also contrary to myth, no, your eyeballs will not pop out of their sockets if you try it. Promise. And in case you've heard otherwise, no, your heart does not stop when you have a sneeze. That's a promise too. Curiously, about a third of us sneeze in response to bright light. Now, scientists still don't really know why, but it seems to be some crossover between the reflexes in the eyes and the nose. And it tends to run in families, and it goes by a wonderful medical name. Autosomal dominant compelling helio-ophthalmic outburst syndrome, for which the acronym is ACHOO. Gesundheit.
Dr Nick, is it true that you can develop asthma at any age, even if you have no history of allergies or breathing issues?
Yeah, it's called adult onset asthma, Joe, and while it can happen to people who used to have childhood asthma, it can also happen for the very first time in your 40s, 50s or even older. And it's actually a bit more common in people who are female or overweight, so only 1 out of 2 risk factors for you.
I guess that's good news. But, you know, spring is here and there's no doubt hay fever is about. I have friends who are really struggling. Seems to be a lot worse this year.
Yeah, well, with the wet start and the milder start to the season, grasses have grown really tall and the pollen count is super high. And the pollen season normally runs about October to December, but it started the earliest this year that it has for 3 decades. So if you're asthmatic, make sure that you've got your preventer, that it's working and you know how to use it properly.
Spring and summer is when hay fever can become top of mind for so many adults. But it's not only adults who suffer. 25% of children aged 6 to 14 experience hay fever, and it's more likely a child will experience hay fever if a parent does. That said, it can be difficult for a parent to identify whether their child is experiencing hay fever versus the common cold. This means that hay fever may go untreated, causing a child to withdraw from essential things like school, socialising and even play. Asking some simple questions may help with the diagnosis. Are there multiple symptoms occurring at the same time, like nasal congestion, itchy eyes and sneezing? And are these symptoms lingering for more than a few weeks? And it's always best to consult a GP or pharmacist. Antihistamines are a familiar treatment for adults, and it's the same with kids. There are great tasting, non-drowsy liquid formulas suitable for use from 24 months that can treat symptoms of hay fever. Kids are social, inquisitive and thirsty for knowledge, and keeping their hay fever symptoms under control at an early age will give them the best chance to keep exploring as they grow up.
Well, Jack, some great tips there on how our kids can deal with hay fever, which causes a lot of problems, as you know. At the start of the show, we talked about the power of music to change emotions. Is there one particular song that takes you to a happy place?
Oh, yes, the 2007 Premiership, the Geelong theme song.
Well, that's been a pretty happy time to be a Geelong supporter, in all fairness to you. And the latest research shows that music has the ability, a favourite song in particular, to reduce pain to the same degree as taking a painkiller, which is quite incredible.
So all I need to do is just whack on my favourite song and then presto, headache gone.
Well, it has to be a favourite song, apparently, Jack, not just any other song. So we might put that one to test in recent times. Up next, 2 of our favourite people in the kitchen, Zoe and Hines, get together to put a bit of spring in your step. That's up next.
It's been a while between smoothie battles, Zoe. Name your terms, but more importantly, what does the winner get?
Well, judging by these ingredients, the winner is, drumroll, a healthy libido.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Now, I'm interested, but I think I need some more information.
Well, the apples you're using contain an antioxidant called quercetin that helps treat erectile dysfunction and assists with managing low libido. Also, watermelon, my hero ingredient, may act like a natural form of Viagra.
OK, so asking for a friend here, if they, say, wanted to separate everyday foods with SEX so they can actually enjoy their smoothie, where would they begin?
The herbal world, Lukey. First up, tribulus. This plant covered in spice has been traditionally used in Ayurvedic medicine to help support a healthy libido.
We can also thank our friends in traditional Chinese medicine for delivering us epimedium, which you may know as horny goatweed, which helps support healthy sexual function.
Still in traditional Chinese medicine, there's ginkgo, which may help improve blood flow to peripheral areas of the body, in particular assisting circulation to erectile tissue.
A lot of couples out there are going to be very grateful for this information, Zoe, and the good news is all of these herbs can be found in supplement form. Now, I want to go and enjoy my smoothie in peace.
Now, while you do that, I'm going to give the audience at home some tips to get you in the mood. Think lighting, massage oil, candles, lingerie. Hey, hey, hey. Woo!
Get Nourished is brought to you by Go Healthy's Go Tribulus Max, a convenient, high-strength one-a-day formulation to enhance a healthy libido.
Oh, it's been wonderful to tune into the beauty of sound today. OK, favourite noises. For me, Das,
Yes?
it is the roar of a packed MCG.
Oh,
it's my favourite noise.
Especially this season.
It's been quite
I think
joyous.
you'll enjoy this one too. My favourite sound is sound of a cork coming out of a bottle of red wine. That's one of the great sounds of all time.
Doesn't sound quite the same with that little screw top, does it?
No, exactly.
No, my favourite sound is someone else shouting, "Dinner's ready," because it means I haven't cooked for once.
Well, my favourite sound is waves on an ocean beach. And 4 lucky people could soon be experiencing just that in Bali.
That's right. We're giving you the opportunity to visit one of the best luxury holistic retreats in Asia. We're giving away not 1 but 2 one-week stays for 2 people at Sukhavati Health Retreat in Bali.
Joe, everything is included, from your airfares to your transfers, your villa, all of the treatments, yoga, and of course, the amazing food.
Head to House of Wellness, go to the website houseofwellness.com.au, follow the prompts to enter very simply. Competition's open now. It closes on the 18th of December. We'll announce the winner then.
I mean, don't miss this opportunity to visit this glorious place. I think that's all we've got time for today. Yeah.
Don't forget to tune in to House of Wellness Radio, Gerald Quigley and Luke Hines on Sunday.
And check out the latest Lift Out, which is all about staying energised during the December festive season.
Always good to see Dr Nick Carr, Jacqui, Felgate and Joe Stanley. Thanks for joining us today on the House of Wellness. And thanks, as always, to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.